There's no sugarcoating it. 2025 was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad year for the Las Vegas Strip. Now, everyone's got their theories as to why that was the case, but amid some brand new economic headwinds, including spiking gasoline and airline prices, is 2026 shaping up to be any better? Today on CityCast Las Vegas, we talk with Howard Stutz, a veteran casino gaming reporter, to figure out whether or not the Las Vegas Strip may finally break its losing streak. It's Monday, May 11th. I'm Jesse Merrick, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Before we get into today's show, we want to give a shout out to all of you who have become CityCast Las Vegas neighbors during our spring membership campaign. But I've got to be honest, we were hoping we'd see more of you take the leap and join our community of neighbors. We need 30 more of you to sign up to reach our goal. So today, to sweeten the deal even more for you, we've got a great opportunity to snag some free tickets to Astoria's latest cultural production on May 22nd, featuring an all-star cast of 7 nationally recognized chefs and NPR Tiny Desk winner Ruby Ibarra. If you're familiar with Astoria's dinner pop-ups, you won't want to miss this one. If you want more info, check out the link in the show notes of today's episode to see for yourself just how exciting this event will be. And because we also love our current neighbors, we can't forget about you. All of you will also be eligible for this giveaway, but you're only going to have a shot at these free tickets if you become one of our neighbors by Tuesday, May 12th. So after you join, or for those of you who are already our neighbors, keep an eye out for a sign-up form in a members-only email. But by becoming a neighbor today, you'll also get one of our custom CityCast Las Vegas Oxford pennants you've heard us talking all about over the last week or so, on top of all the other great benefits of being a neighbor, like ad-free listening, bonus content on the podcast, and access to our members-only events with us and the rest of our awesome community of neighbors as well. So if you don't want to miss out on all of these great perks, the Oxford pennant, and a shot to win those free tickets to Astoria's event on May 22nd, sign up now by visiting membership.citycast.fm/Las Vegas. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm/Las Vegas. And as always, to make it extra easy for you, that link is also in the show notes of today's episode. All right, let's get it rolling and dive into my conversation with Howard. All right, Howard, thank you for joining us, man. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Jesse. Good to see you again.
Yeah, of course. It's going to be an interesting one today. Obviously, everybody loves talking about the Strip and money and our economy, all that stuff. So, you know, as someone who lives in Vegas, and honestly, everyone who lives here does have a sense that 2025 overall was just an off year for us tourism-wise. And that's a scary thing for some people. But as someone who really is steeped in the numbers, can you contextualize how bad 2025 actually was for us?
Thanks for having me on, Jesse. I always enjoy being on CityCast. And it's hard to say because it was visitation was down 7.5%, but gaming numbers, they were like, balancing. They were fine, down maybe a half a point or here and there. The problem is after the pandemic, gaming numbers just spiked and visitation spiked tremendously, whether it was because of, people being shut in for, however how long that was.
Got to get out of the house.
Just get me out. I was and want to get back to Vegas. And there were record totals for gaming revenue. Tourism still has not reached its, I think its record was like back in 2018 or 2019 for a number of visitors. It's never reached that. There's different reasons why. We've had different, we just saw the closure 2024 of the Mirage. Right now we have about 150,000 hotel rooms in Las Vegas. It was higher because, you had the Mirage and they closed that down, and we're waiting for the Hard Rock Las Vegas to reopen in its place in 2020, but maybe by the end of 2027. It was such a gangbuster sprint after the pandemic. And then we had a couple of hiccups. Obviously, the economy took a dip last year, and that's what affected, coming here. There is also the negative headlines that have surrounded Vegas that it's too expensive. We went out on the Strip last year in the summer, a bunch of reporters and I'm a photographer, and talked to a lot of people who were there, and they say it's just too expensive and they don't know when they'll come back. We've seen room rates come back up recently. We've seen visitation back up, but a lot of it is due to the fact that the hotels, the big ones with convention centers, MGM, Caesars, Venetia, the big convention centers, they went out and it started in January, but over the next year or so, we're going to see a big boost in convention and meetings business. So that's bringing a lot of folks in. That helps the restaurants because the convention people come in and they have nice expense accounts, and they go ahead and spend those at the restaurants. So that's a good sign. But as far as the hotel rates, I mean, rates have fluctuated a little bit over first quarter, the first 3 months. We'll see what happens throughout the year. It's just too hard to say a good month in March. Hey, we're back. Everything's back to normal. No, it's not. I mean, you see spikes, and it depends on what's going on in the month. So I think, Jesse, you were here in February of 24 when the Super Bowl was here.
Yeah.
That was
crazy.
You saw it. And you saw how crazy it was around the Super Bowl. It had a big, big turnout, and that boosted that month, February 2024. February 2025 comes around, and it was down everything was down 15, 20%. So that's because you couldn't compare with the 2 months. That's the challenge we go through in trying to say, is Vegas back? Is Vegas not back? Is there issues? That's really what we're facing. You'd also you just look at the airport. The numbers are down, have been down for quite a while. The prices have gone up because gasoline prices have gone up. Drive-in traffic from California has dropped because gasoline prices are pretty expensive.
You got to be rich to drive here now.
I know. It's just we're going to be a little schizophrenic here for the next year, I really believe, in following this as long as I have. You're going to see months that are spike up, and then you're going to see months that go down. And it's going to be what's going on that month. That's what's really, we just had the WWE, 100,000 wrestling fans came in, most of them from out of town. So that spiked, visitation for April probably.
Yeah, events, it's always great, because we do have that constant influx of events that'll come in and spike those numbers here and there. And obviously the city has leaned into that on the sports front of things too, with that, and gone all in on sports. Also too, though, you said, 2026 is looking pretty good. And a lot of that is to do, with the conventions and things like that for the early influx. I'm curious, is that something that you think is sustainable for us going forward in terms of leaning on, the convention people coming into town?
Well, at least for MGM and Caesars has said, yes, it has been, because they've got shows booked out for 16 months. A lot of these shows, trade shows, big conferences will book months out, obviously a year out to give, for planning and get people time to plan out everything and get events surrounded like that, like the Super Bowl. I mean, the Super Bowl now, we're not going to see that till 2029. It's already, the planning is going to start quickly for it. So it's
College football playoff is coming up soon, though, right? 2028 or 2027, I forget.
2027 is the football playoff. 2028 is the Final Four.
Yeah.
And 2029 is the Super Bowl, which, Jesse, the Final Four, as you being a sports guy will know, the travel with the Final Four is really only centered around those 4 schools that play in that game.
Yeah, you pray for the big schools.
Well, you pray for the big schools, and when my alma mater, San Diego State, made it to Houston for the Final Four a couple of years ago, it was huge. San Diego State fans from all over went there.
Yeah.
I joked to the head of the LVCVA that the last thing he wants to see is UNLV and UNR in the Final Four in 2028 when it comes here. But the Super Bowl being big crowds, all those events, you having the Allegiant Stadium to bring big concerts, big events. That's been a big help. It's done what it promised. It's just very, I hate to use schizophrenic, but just back and forth. You just don't know what you're going to get until months out. I don't know if visitation will go up or will continue to go up over the year as the year plays out, but you'll see the convention business has been played out, has gone up extensively in the last 3 months.
Yeah, it definitely has. And we were talking about it on a previous episode last week, just about, the city going all in on sports, kind of in vein of what we were talking about here. Almost seems like, targeting more domestic travel and, domestic fans of these teams and stuff to come in. F1 obviously being an outlier, as that's a very international sport, so they've gone heavy on that. But overall, a big reason why visitation was down as a whole, correct, is that the international markets weren't traveling here as much. I think Canada and France really jumped out, right?
Right. International travel is still down, double digits from what it was last year. Canadian visitation is still down, though. Circa just put out an email or a press release saying they brought in 50,000 Canadians visited downtown so far because in the last 3 months, because Derek Stevens did a promo where he did a 1-for-1 exchange rate on the Canadian dollar versus the US dollar. So he tried to do something to bring in Canadians to Vegas. I mean, that's Derek. He's always thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And it seems to have worked. Canadians aren't coming because they're angry at the president and, for saying Canada should be the 51st state and all that. And it's taken a while to that come back, and it's still down. I don't know how long it'll take to get it back. So it's those type of little things that happen that, keep people out. Now, I think there's a lot of orange at the Golden Knights game. So you see the Anaheim fans driving up, to buy tickets for the game. So we're seeing, you always saw that with the Golden Knights. That's what we're going to expect. We see that with the Raiders. You go to Allegiant Stadium and when they're playing the Broncos and 70% of the crowd is in orange.
Way too many orange Broncos fans out there. You don't like that.
Right. I mean, that just happens. And that's what I think we'll see that with the Athletics when they come here in 2028. You're going to see a lot of out-of-town fans will come in for that, which is fine. That's why you want those arenas, those venues on the Strip, because then the hotel casinos, feed off that visitation. There's still a locals market that comes to it, but that comes to those events. But that's really what these venues are being built for. Get the big crowds in from out of town and fill up the rooms.
I guess a way to boost the international travel is to have more Canadian hockey teams play better and win at least this time of year. Obviously, that's not the case right now.
I tell you right now, we'll lose business from Vancouver if we steal the Whitecaps for the for the MLS. So it's a very it is. You want to have that visitation that comes in from outside. And right now international visitation has dropped off, and that's what's a big loss right now. You see it. In the hotels and in the airport numbers.
Step into the movies with the Neon Museum's new movie tour in the heart of Las Vegas. Take a guided walk through real neon backdrops that have actually appeared in some of Hollywood's most memorable scenes over the decades. Your tour starts in the iconic La Concha Motel lobby, which is now the Neon Museum's visitor center, and a key setting in Scorsese's film Casino. Stand where Robert De Niro and Sharon Stone filmed their romantic evening as Ace and Ginger, and then wander the world-famous neon boneyard surrounded by vintage marquees and historic signs. Plus, you'll connect neon landmarks to films like Casablanca, Superman, and The Joe Louis Story. Relive the comedy of Vegas Vacation as you walk among signs tied to Chevy Chase's classic. You'll hear insider stories and fun trivia that bring these movie moments to life and capture unforgettable photos. So join fellow cinephiles on a one-of-a-kind tour that turns the Neon Museum into your own movie set. Check out the Neon Museum's new movie tour and discover how Las Vegas earned its reputation as the entertainment capital of the world through film.
Do we have any reason to believe that we could rebound here in 2026 in terms of international travel? Like, is there any chance it goes in the right direction there?
It depends on the economy. It depends on just the hotel rates. It depends on what they do and what the hotels could do to drive in more international travel. I mean, a lot of it is the war now too. The war in Iran, that's scaring people from traveling internationally. So it's hit and miss right now. It's just hard to predict because we have so many outside influences on Vegas. It's hard to predict that how this is going to go. Look, I couldn't predict when the pandemic ended. I've been covering gaming and tourism at least off and on going back to the 90s, and I was with in the early 2000s and just saw the spikes. And then when the pandemic hit, we didn't really believe how quickly it bounced back. So it's hard to judge, and I think that's what hopefully there's going to be new things for people to see here when you have a new property like Hard Rock opening at this guitar-shaped hotel.
That'll be a draw for sure.
Hard Rock's an international brand. There's Hard Rock hotels all over the world, including the U.S. There's Hard Rocks everywhere. That's what's going to help spike up some business back when it opens in a year or so. People want to see it. They want to see what's new. As long as I've been here, that's what Vegas has always been about.
Yeah. Bringing something new. Like, I want to stay in the guitar. I want to, whatever it is. And just driving down the Strip, you see that thing. It sticks out like a sore thumb, obviously, and they haven't even really finished most of the building for it. I can't wait to see that when it's done. But you did mention the war in Iran. Like, I'm curious, how do you think the Strip casinos and the LVCVA are wrapping their heads around that?
They're kind of come up with ideas to bring in, to keep visitation flowing. That's one of the things with the Spirit Airlines going out of business. Now other airlines have stepped up pretty quick. Southwest, Frontier, Allegiant have stepped up to try to increasing flights into Las Vegas to try to build that back up, to keep the passenger flow moving.
Curious, so sorry to jump in here, but is the Spirit Airlines thing a bigger deal than maybe we're making it out to be? Like, is that something we should be worried about?
Well, no, I think you all of a sudden saw Southwest step up. They announced this week like 10 new round trip routes, and which probably covers some of the lost Spirit business. Spirit started to fall off last year when they filed for bankruptcy the first time. Spirit used to be the number 2 air carrier at Reed Airport, right behind Southwest. Southwest accounts for about 40% of all the passengers that come into Reed Airport. So Spirit fell off and just declined last year into this year before shutting down. So they've been stepping up and picking up a lot of that customer traffic. So it's not really anything new. It's just now they're looking at ways of stepping up, and you can see that now with the different routes being announced. They're trying to attract the Spirit customers. Everybody's trying to get those Spirit customers, Frontier, Southwest, and Allegiant. So that's the things we're seeing right now to try to make up for that.
I wonder how much of an impact it'll make with bringing in more of the passengers that are coming on the budget airlines, though, because as you said, visitation down, but in terms of like revenue and things like that, not a crazy difference because they've been extracting more out of the wealthier clientele. So, I mean, if we're able to get more of the people flying in the budget airlines and stuff, not to lump them in, I mean, everybody likes a good deal, but like, if we bring in more of them, how much of an impact would it really make in terms of revenue?
It's a smaller impact. I mean, honestly, the biggest challenge right now is the international travel and trying to get that back. Canada's been down. Mexico was okay, but it's like European was all down, but the Asian market is still strong. And they've
Japan
added,
for sure.
And Reed Airport has added direct service now from Paris with Air France. You're going to see direct service from Australia with Qantas. I mean, there are things they're doing to try to try to boost up those numbers. A lot of it for European travel is just outside influences that you and I and the city leaders have no control over. It's no controller over because, it comes out of the government. That's, the way that, it comes out of the worries about the war, worries about all that stuff, high fuel prices. That's out of our control. And that's, for the market. And that's what they will kind of weigh on the market, I think, for a while now until some stuff is resolved.
Yeah, and like you said, getting those international folks and a lot of that resolved can help, move us in the right direction. But it's interesting too, though, when you look at it, it seems, in other Nevada markets like Reno, Northern Nevada, even here downtown Las Vegas as well, they haven't seen the same kind of sluggishness as the Strip. Is that, I guess, maybe more of the, the budget crowd coming in and really propping it up?
That's a great point, Jesse. It was Reno. Reno Tahoe has had a good year so far in terms of gaming revenue. They had a great year last year. It's not so much new offerings up there, but it's the budget travel. The Reno Sparks Convention Authority has seen a boost because they have these different shows that came in that were going to other places, but they came here. It's easier to drive to when it's not snowing, but it's easier. Haven't had that problem too much this year. So it's easier to drive to Reno.
It's been a bad year for that. As a snowboarder, I hate that.
Oh, exactly. But Tahoe's, they've invested into those properties now. The Golden Nugget took over the Hard Rock and has turned it into a Golden Nugget property in Tahoe. Caesars is redone their one of their Tahoe properties. The old Harvey's is now Caesars Republic. That's what you've seen. The challenge for Northern Nevada has always been the tribal gaming markets in Northern California, and they've gotten busier. But so much so is the budget-conscious traveler. They're going to Reno. It's easy to get to, and that's what they're going for. And that's why you've seen the Reno Tahoe Airport's going through an expansion, and they're adding new gates and new flights. So it's a lot up there that they're doing right. They don't rely so much on the international market as much as Vegas does. And that's why you see that's one of the juxtapositions that you're seeing.
Is that a reason why downtown has been okay? Are they not attracting the international travel as much?
They don't need the international travel. I mean, for Boyd Gaming, their international travel is Hawaii. I mean, that's
the ninth island propping us up.
they are huge with the Hawaiian market. The Hawaiian market is continuing to come in. So downtown is, like Derek has tried to draw on the Canadian travel. He's from Michigan, Detroit, just over the lake from Windsor, Ontario. So he's really tied into the Canadian travel, and that's why he's trying to bring back the Canadian market. Downtown's a different animal. It's more, not so much international. It's more budget conscious. Obviously, consumers that come in down there. Their biggest challenge was the F1 killed them that weekend, and that they've done things to revive that. They still have events going on that they're not relying so much on the F1 crowd. At Vegas, the first year of F1, they just focused on F1, and it killed everybody else in the market. That's why you see the Raiders having games during F1. UNLV in Hawaii will play during F1 last year. Huge crowd because all the Hawaiians come in for that game. It's a huge.
That's always a crazy game, yeah.
Well, they play for the pineapple. What is it? The pineapple, big
the
giant
golden pineapple.
Trophy.
Yeah, one of the best trophies in sports.
It really
awesome.
is, but it's huge. For Boyd, didn't care. Boyd told we don't care to schedule the game that weekend. We're going to do great, and they did. They filled up their properties, and all Hawaiians went down to the game. It was a Friday night game. It didn't have it on a Saturday night. Didn't have it, going up against F1, but it still had great business for the town. So they've now learned that you can do other things while F1's here. That was something that got lost in the first year, and now that F1's a permanent fixture, for now, I think it will be for a long time. Obviously, there's ways that they all work together, and I think that's fine.
Yeah, they figured out a way to make it work for them, and so get on downtown for that. But I guess, again, it seems like Vegas is wrestling back and forth between this, go after the uber wealthy, but also, hey, we're going to throw some, all-inclusive packages your way too, and maybe increase the affordability in that sense and less nickel and diming. Is that something that you think we're going to see more of now, that it's kind of worked in the short term?
Well, the two biggest operators on the Strip, Caesars and MGM, introduced all-inclusive packages for the summer. And we don't know how they're going to work yet, if they grab the audience. The question is, you have MGM puts up Excalibur, Luxor, and I think it was Park MGM for the all-inclusive packages. But then within a week later, they announced they're ending the MGM Grand Buffet, which is a low price option at the MGM Grand. They're ending that at the end of May. So,
sad day for me, a buffet lover over here.
There's not a lot of buffets now. It's changed. It changed a lot, but that's a question. And then Caesars did their all-inclusive, but it's only involving Flamingo, Harrah's, and the Link. So it doesn't include Caesar's Palace. It doesn't include, the Horseshoe or Planet Hollywood, some of their other properties. So I don't know how those are going to work. I think, people with families do like all-inclusive. When you have little kids, you want to go somewhere where the kids don't mind. They get the meals paid for already, the free breakfast and all that. That's big. And I think we'll see if that works for them. We just don't know yet. It's been announced, and we'll see how that plays out. But they're the ones doing it. Others haven't, that are announced it. So we'll see. They're the biggest operators on the Strip, MGM and Caesars. Between them, they got about 20 properties. So
I think it's a bit misleading, I guess, when we talk about that, because like you said, it's a couple more of the budget-friendly options that are on the Strip, maybe almost trying to create a pseudo-downtown feel to it with those resorts. I'm so curious to see how that ends up working out for them.
Yeah, we just don't know yet. I mean, it's just, we'll see. It's early. So, but it's worth trying. I guess, look, they need to think outside the box. The Vegas is too expensive, was headline all of last year. And that's something they've had to address. And the other problem is, when you look at the Strip, when you see gaming numbers every month, a lot of times it's baccarat, which is a high-end game to a small audience, but they're betting hundreds of thousands of dollars, proverbial suitcase full of money that they put into
classic Vegas style.
Put into the cage, and they gamble off of that. It's a very volatile game, and that's what kind of skews the Strip gaming numbers here and there. The Wall Street analysts will look at slot revenue as a better gauge of how the Strip is doing. And that's something you kind of watch too. So you kind of watch both those ends. Odd part in March, sports betting, the Strip, I don't know why. I mean, maybe people were betting on it was either the Final Four or just all this stuff in March, the college basketball, they were just losing. The sports books did real well, but it was not a big number. They won 100 million or something. That's actually small compared to what they win normally. It's like 25, 40 million or whatever it is. You just have to judge that. That's what the challenge is. Obviously everybody looks at baccarat. There's only a handful of casinos, big properties that do baccarat, and that can skew the whole market just because of how big the baccarat numbers are.
I could imagine. Howard, thank you so much. I can't wait to catch up back with you, in a couple months here to get a real check-in on things, how things are going for us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on. I always enjoy the CityCast, and happy to be on with you, Jesse. Good to see you again.
Well, that's all we've got here today on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our free morning newsletter as well. And before we go, we want to give a big shout out to some of our new neighbors. Jill G, Pete V, Katrina N, Heather P, Martha R, Mark N, and Janet E. Thank you so much for signing up. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks like all the folks we just shouted out by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm/Las Vegas. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Until then, though, take care.